All right. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. You just heard from Paul Richards. We'll hear from Richard Raghubarasingh. We got Ruben in the mix. He's going on some R&R after today. Of course, my name is Steve Khan. Let's get straight into the WTs, see what's happening on the highways and the byways, and for your weather forecast for today. I'm sure it's going to be the same as yesterday, but I'll check shortly. Nothing to tell you about in South. The solid is pretty clear until after Freeport towards Sugargoners and slow going from Charlieville towards interchange. Bit of volume as they head towards the Beetham, but just by swim call is where you're going to step on your brake. Maloney to Piarco, Trin City towards Huey, Ibis Gardens towards the highway. You've also got some traffic. All right, there you go. You know that's going to change in a short. What the weather is going to be like for today. Let's see if the Met Office has updated it. Pretty much what you see yesterday, it will be for today. That's your weather forecast. All right. It is 25 degrees at Piarco International Airport. Same at Crown Point in Tobago. It is 6 in Toronto. Miami, you're 28. Orlando, you're 26. New York, you're at 11. And Claire, Atlanta, you're sitting at 15 with a drizzle. London, 14 with some cloud. Tampa, 28 and cloud. Washington, clear, 10. LA, all this now there, it's 15 degrees for you. All right? So there you go. Let's see who sent us hellos. First thing on this Thursday morning. We've got Trini in Boston. Good morning to you. D. Pear. Mo Gaines out in Aruka. Good morning. Oliver Man Warren. Wendy and James, Edwin Marshall, good morning to you. Wayne B. out in Covington, Georgia. Ray out in West Palm Beach, Florida. Good morning to you, Ray. Matthew Rock as well, always locked on, and of course, Carol Guevara. All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching us on YouTube and on Facebook as well. You can send us a message via those two portals. All right, so good morning to you, Pablo. What's happening?
Morning, Steve. Good morning, everyone. Good Thursday morning. This week is flying by quite quickly.
Yeah, it's flying. This week is just flying. Tomorrow is Friday already. I have no problems with that whatsoever. None at all. Love it. Love it. Mind you, I'll be working, but still love it.
But you have to work.
Yeah.
And you like
boy,
this
did you see the amount of weapons that they recovered in the forest in Santa Cruz?
Yep, it was like an army.
Holy Malinos!
Like they were stocking stuff for an army or something. It's outstanding.
Wow, Santa Cruz is getting so hot.
Well, everywhere is hot. Santa Cruz is getting hot.
Oh, speaking of Santa Cruz, I understand that overnight, some men went into a quarry and put everyone, the security and everybody, to lie down on the floor and told them not to come back. That happened overnight.
Well, I've spoken about this quarry issue and these thugs running some of these quarries for a while, and the state seems powerless or unwilling to deal with the illegal quarrying issue in Trinidad and Tobago.
And for years, it's been like that.
Because of who may be involved. I heard Stuart Young say something, Minister Young say something some months ago, but I don't know that I'm seeing the kind of interventions that one would expect given the seriousness of that problem, because that illegal quarrying thing is going on for decades in this country.
Yep, it is.
But I don't know, like the afraid illegal quarriers, and it seems that's what it comes across to me.
Well,
I don't know that the quarriers are under any sense of threat from the authorities regarding the operations. It seems like they know, like somebody must be afraid them, so they could do the hell they want. I don't know. I don't understand it at all.
Those high-powered weapons are not cheap. The ammunition is not cheap. What are they going to do with all of that? Kudos to the TTPS. on getting the intel and going in.
We saw earlier making an appearance in the display.
Yeah, she made it. They had a live press conference at the
Didn't make
police
a statement, but she made an appearance. You know. Did she speak at the press conference?
Yeah, she did. She did.
Okay, good, wonderful. You see, she's taking her advice,
and she sounded pretty good as well.
Yeah, when you have victories like that, go out and brand yourself with it. It's a success.
Yeah,
you can't just let stuff like that pass. Come on, this is here with Christopher. That's what you're supposed to do. Don't be hiding in the shadows.
No.
Come out and claim victory. You understand?
Yeah.
But that's I mean, AR-15s, M16s, Uzis, shotgun, .50 millimeter. What is? I mean, who they plan to fight a war or something?
I don't know.
Yeah, it is. Wow.
Yeah, but you know, I went on a little line yesterday, and crime came up.
Well, as it does in every line.
Yeah, the consensus is that one, they can't fix crime in our lifetime, and two, they're not serious about fixing crime. And they use the examples of
I never know what that means. If you tell me that,
for example, all right, so they got into that little.
Tell me that they're not serious about fixing crime.
They said they took taxpayers' money and installed cameras all over the place, and the criminals know that they're not working. Most of them, they know they could drive around in vehicles with black windows on all six. I know nothing is going to happen. They know that if they do a home invasion, highly likely that they're going to get captured or do a robbery. Just small percentage that will be captured. Citizens are threatened. You can't even walk down Charlotte Street. One of them said their son was walking down Charlotte Street about 2 weeks ago, and these imps, he was wearing a gold bracelet, but it was fake gold, and the guy came behind him and said, "Give it to him," and he just dropped onto the floor, onto the road, spread out.
Smart thing to do.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't never think of that, but yes,
it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, and you know, you can't go to the banks without wondering if somebody is, you go to take out money or whatever the case may be. I don't know. They made it sound so grim, but they were right.
But I don't agree. I don't agree that they're not serious. I agree that many of their strategies and plans are not as effective as they should be. I don't think anybody.
Well, that is yeah, I would agree with you there.
The government or the opposition has anything to gain by not being serious about crime. When I hear those statements, it just sounds a little vacuous to me. I think we could agree that a lot of the plans may not be working as effectively, but I don't. What does a government or an opposition have to gain by not being serious about crime? Yeah. Because it's affecting them too. If only their reputations. Good morning, Wendell.
Morning, Wendell.
You're muted, sir.
We're not hearing you.
You're muted.
Right, I think. I mute to close off all these messy things that keep coming up, all these blog lines that keep coming up. Good morning, gentlemen. I know I'm surprising you all, but but I wanted specifically to join this morning to, one, commend, and two, critique the TTPS. Commend them first for that display of the arms and ammunition cache that they got in Santa Cruz. They didn't say where.
I think they trekked, from what I heard, Alexander saying they trekked inside the Santa Cruz bush forest for like a mile or two to get it.
Right, and they said it was under some sort of information that they got, right? As I said, kudos to them on that.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to join in the criticism of people saying, well, yes, we getting guns. But when you arrest me, they didn't say that. I don't know if they caught anybody where they went and they got those guns, because those guns look brand new. Everything
They
looked
did,
brand new
didn't they?
that they put out on that table, right? And I looked at the press conference and I didn't like the style of the press conference. First, the beginning of that press conference like that, thankfully, the commissioner was there, but it needs to be led by the commissioner of police. She needs to take charge of a press conference like that. You understand? And well, she was joined by all the top brass of the TTPS. But a PIO, the public information officer, who in my humble opinion, shouldn't be exposed in a press conference like that, especially a press conference with guys who have technical backing, all armed and all have their own level of protection. I wouldn't expose my PIO in a press conference like that. I'm sorry.
You mean the officers that were behind which their cases were shown?
Well, those officers, but the person who also introduced the press conference. You understand?
I don't understand your contention, because the public information officer is always in the public, even if not in that circumstance, talking about information related to the TPS anyway. So she or he is known anyway.
Well, yes, Paul, but I'm speaking about in a specific press conference like that. A press conference like that with a commissioner of police in the press conference should be led by the commissioner of police. That's my opinion.
I agree with that, but I don't understand the contention with having the public information officer there. My impression is just my impression. My impression is the commissioner realized she's just not the best communicator, and she decided, you know what, I can't really talk too well. I'm not a great communicator. Let me just be around. At least I was around for this one, because she's been absent for many of the others. And I know, she probably told herself, let me keep my verbal contributions as limited as possible.
No, well, that's what I'm saying. She did most of the talking along with Roger Alexander. They were the only two who spoke at the press conference. You understand?
And it's about 10 too.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm saying that
in the last couple of weeks, why is this woman, the police commissioner, not branding herself, not only when things go bad, because those Heights of Guanapo killings, I thought that deserved the commissioner of police presence also. And the Andrea Lala killing, but also the many, many successes that the police service has had in the last couple of months.
Yeah. Now I have a personal reason for saying what I'm saying. I won't go into explain, but at a press conference like that, you don't need an information officer introducing, because all the information officer was there to do was to introduce who was sitting at that table.
And what's the big deal? That's a semantics issue.
Paul, you know this criminal world probably better than I do. Okay? You don't expose somebody like that in a press conference. Like that.
How is the officer exposed? The officer is on TV and radio every week talking about police issues.
Okay, all right. I won't say anymore. I don't understand the content. That's part of the job. Kudos to the TTPS. Yeah, it's part of the job. But also, I don't know if you all heard. The update on the shooting of the deputy commissioner of prisons. That he actually returned fire
this morning. Yes, we read it in the news. He defended himself by returning fire. That was in the news up to last night, and unfortunately, his driver sustained 2 gunshot wounds to the chest and conveyed to the Queen Medical Sciences Complex. Fortunately, the driver is still alive, but in some serious condition because the gunshot wound was to his chest. And it is another brief attack by the criminal element. Deputy Commissioner of Police, his driver.
Isn't that the Deputy Commissioner of Prisons was in the vehicle or came outside? What was the update?
From what I understand, it was he went to pick up the Assistant Commissioner of Prisons, and the Assistant Commissioner was inside in his house, and the driver was outside, and the 2 vehicles pulled up, and opened fire. And he just ducked down to the passenger seat, and that's how he got hit in his arm and so on.
Which means they were either following him or knew where the deputy commissioner lived and planned this assassination. Like, clearly the driver wasn't the target.
Mm-hmm. But I also listened to the acting commissioner of prisons talking about that the phone lines for the prisons, the way that the inmates would liaise with their lawyers and family and so on, has not been working for 3 years.
Yeah, I heard that too.
No, I don't blame the landline provider, I blame the individual who is supposed to see about getting the phone lines working.
But that would be the prisons.
That would be inside, that would be an officer inside the prison.
Yeah. Whoever is in charge of that the landline is down.
So if our landlines are down, are we going to sit down here and just say, well, it ain't working and leave it like that? Or we are going to call the provider and say, hey, our line's not working?
Yeah, and apparently the Prisons Officers Association had written a letter to the line minister, asking for them to hold on the jammers, the use of the jammers, and it wasn't approved by the head of the prison, the prisons officer, the Prisons Association, the head of prisons, is Mr. Ramuta. He wasn't aware that they had written.
I don't know that turning off the jammers is the way to fix the issue with the inoperative landlines.
Yeah, well.
Okay? That doesn't make any sense to me. So you let the contraband cell phones go in and they could call who they want and organize hits and other illegal activities because the landline ain't working? That is the solution?
I guess the way they saw it is that, listen, they're putting our lives at risk, Let the guys and them use a phone. That's how they saw it.
And the answer to that is to fix the damn landline.
Yeah, well.
Not let illegal calls go in and out of the prison.
Let's hope the landline get fixed now, because nothing is stopping them phones from going in and being used. Clearly.
You know what? How all this comes across to me, and I'll be very blunt about this. It's like it have no head.
Yeah. Yeah. The left hand don't know what the right hand is doing.
That's what it's coming across to me. Like there's no leadership. There's no leadership. Like things have to explode and come to the public in a disorganized, erratic, crazy way for anything to get done. That's how it's coming across to me. Is there not a permanent secretary in the Ministry of National Security?
Yes.
Why are you acting so surprised? These things have been happening for ages.
We're not talking about ages. That kind of deflection. It's that kind of deflection. It's not what is productive.
That's not a deflection,
because you are somebody who is often on record. You are somebody who is often on record as saying when Martin Joseph was Minister of National Security, a lot of things were managed properly. Okay? So don't tell me about this thing happening for ages. Okay?
Yeah.
So it clearly can be managed if there's effective leadership.
But you also on record as saying these things. But you are also on record as saying whenever I criticize the UNC that the PNM does do it too, it's happening in all governments. You also on record like that too?
No, that is not true. Pull up the tape.
Oh, that is true.
Pull up the tape.
You want to do a poll on that? You're
only looking for poll this morning to justify your erroneous statement. You're looking for company. Okay?
No, but Paul, I believe you're right.
Don't deflect.
It seems to be it seems to be a lack of leadership.
It looked like, you ever see people running out in fires every minute as opposed to going ahead and managing a situation? It's coming across like it's erratic and uncontrolled and uncoordinated.
Yes.
But what have I said time and time again on this morning program?
When I heard that presentation about CCTV cameras and 75 being installed every week, my mouth couldn't help but choops.
Yeah, ice troops.
I had to choops. They're going to be installing CCTV cameras. Oh my God, I'm overjoyed. I'm so relieved. I could breathe a sigh of relief.
Paul, let me ask this question then. Is there anything you have heard thus far in this latest round of debate that is new? Nothing is new. Nothing is new.
I heard something that's
When
new.
I put up,
I heard something that's
what?
new.
What,
We're going to know next week how much we pay.
Shampoo Kojo last
name. And we're going to hear next week how much more you're going to be paying for electricity. That's new.
Well, let's wait on
and
that.
I heard also that TSTT make $114 million. Hope we pour that some about that back into providing a decent service for the money they're taking from you. That's new.
Hello.
Well, you know what?
Mobile has not been working since Monday.
Almost bad.
They're giving $6 million bonus to the staff for Christmas. TSTT. That's new.
You see, I have learned when state enterprises declare profits before tax and you don't see the actual audited financial reports, they rejoice it.
No. But you know, I thought TSTT came in.
Wait until they get the financial reports after tax. And then you could say, okay,
that's
good
what
job.
you need after tax.
Don't say good job with unaudited financial reports and misses to ministers. That okay, we do good, we make $114 million. Do they know how much debt TSTT is in? Do you know how much they invest in debt to make that $114 million?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how much TSTT owes generally? Okay.
Anytime a company like TSTT claim they're going and pay out $6 million in bonus, I have a big question mark around that.
As I said, if I can see the debt profile of the company and I get a clear impression of what this real financial state of the company is, because anybody could. Numbers are very easy things to present in part and not in full.
Well, we know that from Caribbean Airlines and other places.
Exactly. So saying you're heading in the right direction and not getting the full financial picture are two completely different things.
Yeah.
And if you're going to pay out $6 million in bonuses, you have to preface that by saying we make $114 million before tax.
Well, clearly, I listened to some parts of Minister Gonzalez's presentation. And clearly, I think the information that he is fed, because he had to have been given that information by the different agencies that he's responsible for, right? They wanted him to sound like if something is happening, because he read out a list of things that WASA is doing that I know one of them on that list ain't being done. It wasn't done. That relaying of pipelines on Mokorapa Road. That, since I was a councillor, they promised him to do that. They came and did the measurements and
very
stuff,
often they mix up plans to do with having been done.
Yeah.
It's on the company's plan, operational plan, but it ain't necessarily been done yet, you know. Or they lay 1 foot of pipe out of 2,000 feet of pipe intended to be laid, and they say we started laying pipe. No pun intended.
Because anybody who lives in St. James or West Trinidad would know when that's been done, because it will inconvenience if they have to dig up that entire road, stretch of road, and it will inconvenience hundreds of thousands of people who go west using Mokorapa Road, right? Because the pipes have been too close to the surface of the road. So every time a big truck pass or rumble, that's why Mokorapa Road always have WASA leaks. The pipe is too close to the surface of the road, and we have asked for that to be fixed ages ago. They've not done it. But last night, I'm listening and I'm hearing that I think that must have been the first thing come out of his mouth. Mokorapa Road in St. James. And I said, no. Anyway.
So the sad development is that the prison officers again are under attack. This time the acting deputy commissioner. While we talking and reading the news yesterday, them decide they're gonna put on a walk, sadly.
Yeah.
Okay. So then their job yesterday was to kill a man. So they get up yesterday morning, if they went to sleep at all, drink the gas, or smoke the weed, and went on this mission to try to take this man's life?
They probably went in a church and
I am
prayed.
hoping the
You say they drink
TTPS
the
continues.
gazul and smoke the. You say they drink the gazul and smoke the weed. That might be stereotyping, you know.
Yeah, say it. Okay, I said it.
All right.
I said it.
I just saying they may have done other things. They may not have done that at all. Right? But
fortunately failed mission for the most part. And I hope the TTPS continues its productive streak of the last couple of weeks or months. And we hear by the weekend or at earliest next week that people have been apprehended and charged for this attempted murder.
I'm surprised though no CCTV footage has emerged, because I would imagine people around there have cameras.
Because they installed CCTV footage. They reach Barataria yet.
I'm talking about private homes. I'm talking about private homes and so on.
Yeah, that's true. Because if I were a police officer, I would actually have cameras in my house.
Yeah, there's been no footage of a car coming or going or anything like that. None.
Well, I don't think the officer, if there are cameras, and I'm presuming that given the nature of his job, he would have cameras, personal cameras on his house. That the police probably have that footage by now, and they are in the process of sorting through as evidence. Good morning, Mr. Ragabasi.
Good morning, guys, and good morning to our viewers and listeners. Good morning, Richard.
Morning, Richard. Richard, I joined specifically to touch on a couple issues, including that press conference to the TTPS. I got no, because of maybe how I brought it up and the fact that how I should put it, didn't express my deep concern to Paul and Steve and the public. Paul take a lagging material. So I said I'll leave it right there. Okay. But I maintain a press conference of that nature should be led by the Commissioner of Police, nobody else.
He's trying to tell how to have the press conference now. He directed press conferences now. But it is very easy for Wendell to touch on police, so he came to touch on the police.
Well, let me ask you, gentlemen, if those guns that they found yesterday did not come through the ports, therefore they came through via little boats in the sea coming into the various beaches, like how drugs came up on Los Heroes Beach yesterday. Shouldn't the Coast Guard be around working hand in hand with the TDPS, with intel and so on, and protecting our borders? Shouldn't the Coast Guard be involved?
And the Coast Guard can man how much miles of coastline?
Right, but don't we have a radar system that they keep talking about?
That can intercept every pirogue that comes in on every inch of shore?
But have they said most of what we are seeing, these guns are being imported through the legal ports?
From the American intelligence, that 90% of the guns of that nature are coming through legal ports. Illegal entry is not the major issue. But if police are walking to customs and do a raid by themselves, it will continue to happen.
Well, the Minister of National Security, the Minister of Finance, I suppose, is where we should start, did indicate that they had bumped up a maritime command center to deal with those issues of illegal entry. Since we're an island, it's almost supposed to be like 360-degree manning of whatever is coming into Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know how effective it's going to be, but the Minister of Finance did indicate it was resources supplied by the United States together with the riverine boats, not so?
To man every foot of the coastline around two islands?
The radar, the system, the command center.
Okay,
You have
so
to
the
use
radar,
technology. Obviously, you don't have the
the radar
manpower to
pick up
do
a
it.
pirogue. They're gonna run me in every pirogue that come in when they can't even run behind the pirogue coming in with illegal Venezuelans.
Well, I can't start off with a cynical approach in terms of solving the issue.
Well,
The Minister of Finance, to be fair to him,
comment
did.
comes because no matter what we say, the illegal guns keep pouring in. Look at what we saw
Well,
yesterday.
that's what I'm saying. The Minister of Finance did indicate something to address it. Whether it's going to be successful or not will be
Haven't they
seen.
been indicating something to excessive budget after budget?
But I have never heard of a maritime command center before. Have you?
I've heard about all sorts and sundry of interventions that seemingly have failed.
I never heard about the maritime command center.
The TTPS
and this
used to have a maritime branch, at one time.
Yeah, but this is some command center that they say, but that was supplied by the United States.
Yeah, I think they still have it.
So this is some, no, but he indicated this is resources that the U.S. recently provided. And he thanked Candace Bond, who is the current.
So let's presume that is going to work or that is working. What about the 90% or so that coming in through legal ports? Which is the real issue?
Well, he did indicate about the scanners, the 4 scanners that they were recently doing. I'm just articulating what the Minister of Finance said to address that issue.
And if the scanners are in the hands of those who may be complicit, aka port, customs and excise, corrupt personnel, what is going to happen? Anything different?
Well, there will always be, but I'm not so sure what the question is in aid of, Paul. Is it that you're saying we should just give up? What you saying, we should just give up? We shouldn't do anything?
I'm not saying we should give up, but I'm saying the inability to zero in on the real issue and fix it is my issue. AKA corrupt customs and excise officials for decades in this country, seeming to be an enclave on their own and untouchable. That's my issue.
Isn't that what the new unit is supposed to address?
We'll see.
The new unit is not supposed to deal with all manners of divisions of the security service, including customs?
I tour the Port of Spain, Plebdeco, the airport, and the level of tomfoolery I saw, or we saw, including search areas and warehouses with CCTV cameras covered up, and the personal tellers behind the scenes. Every time we uncover them, people come and say, don't let that cover. Access from the airport runway into the bond areas unfettered. You could walk on the CARICOM jetty and walk off as you want. The officials telling us, how do you know which container to serve? Well, we have an understanding over the years. Doesn't give me a lot of hope. A big bond area with one big scanner that a tractor run into out of the whole area that inoperational. Scanners for truck to go through that people don't want to operate because they say may give them radiation poisoning, and a plethora of excuses that maintains the status quo doesn't give me much hope.
Yeah, and we have to change all of that.
Okay, there we go.
Because we have to make a decision to deal with the crime situation in this little space. And we can't solve the problems of the planet. We can't solve the problems of the drug international.
The customs and excise cartel. That's the first thing they need to do. Break up the customs and excise cartel.
All we could do is try and solve what our inadequacies are. But we can't solve the international drug trade. That's a bigger problem, and that's beyond us. But what we could say is this is not a space to do it in. What we could say is this is not a space to do it in. And if they have to route out all of the rogue cops, rogue customs officers, and rogue officers in the public sector who facilitate this, so be it. But we have to find a way to do it.
Since I was a little boy playing marbles, pitching marbles, I hear about corrupt customs and excise officers and the weeding out of them. And you all too. Am I wrong, Wendell?
You're not wrong. Okay. Let me tell you something. Right. Let me tell you something. The last serious attempt we had, I'm going to say it again. The last serious attempt we had of fixing this place, crime-wise, was under Patrick Augustus Mervyn Manning and Martin Reynolds Joseph. That's the last serious attempt we had, okay? Because I'm telling you, and I would have said this before, Martin had said when he went in, he thought that he was going in there to deal specifically with the police, only to realize it was all arms. The immigration, the customs, the Coast Guard, the regiment, everybody was a mess. Okay? And we saw where that led us. We saw all the different levels of equipment that came in. We heard Mr. Manning talk about the radar, not just to protect us, but all the other islands. We heard of all that. What happened after 2010 when the PNM lost? Everything was dismantled. Every single thing was dismantled. Okay? And it has not been resuscitated as yet. After 5 years of People's Partnership and 8 years of this PNM, nothing has changed. Nothing.
And we have, and I agree with you, Wendell. I mean, I agree with both of you.
My enthusiasm that it will change in the future.
I'm saying I'm
Richard, you're muted.
You're muted, Richard.
Richard, you mute yourself.
at some point.
Right, there you go.
Are you hearing me? Yeah.
You were muted for a while.
Oh, I don't know. I must have accidentally clicked my mic to mute. But my point is, I understand that all of these things, and we know that all of these things have been a problem over the years, but we have to find a way to fix these bloody things. The society cannot continue to spiral in the direction it is spiraling. Look at what they look at the cache of arms that they found yesterday. That is massive. The attempt on the Commissioner of Prisons.
Deputy
Commissioner of Prisons.
Yes.
I mean, that's crazy, Wild West kind of crazy stuff. And we have to deal with it. And deal with it.
I don't disagree with anything. But Richard, guess what? Right? And
if we had to get out all of those corrupt officers in whatever division, we have to do it.
Yes, but we keep doing the same things over and over. We have gotten this cache of arms and ammunition in some forests in Santa Cruz based on some tip. Did we arrest anybody? So in other words, we got the arms and ammunition, but the person responsible for having that arms and ammunition there still have the opportunity to bring more. And if it is so easy to be bringing those things in this country through legal and illegal ports, you think they will stop, Richard? You think they will stop?
No.
How confident
I don't know. And to be fair to the TTPS, I don't know what kind of intelligence they have on who that person is and what their operations are in terms of dealing with it. I assume there's a larger picture. And there has to be a larger picture also with the United States and other international agencies assisting.
Do you have newspapers?
Well, Richard, you didn't tell me that last night, you know. I don't know if you listened to the press conference. All I heard last night was that we are going to be resolute in our pursuit of removing arms and ammunition off the street. Ask for information on the people who imported it. Get the people who imported it.
Let's go to the newspapers, please.
Well, I could start with the Daily. Yeah, I could start with the Daily Express. Thursday, October 12th, 2020.
According to Dominic Caliper 30 years ago, but you invite yourself anyway.
I remember that.
Lawmen under siege. That is the headline that the Daily Express went with. Lawmen under siege.
You see, Richard, you see how we wicked? Yeah. I get the email.
Gentlemen, we are running behind time. Could we just get along with the headline?
But you say I invited myself. Steve, stop interrupting me.
No, we are running behind time. We have a guest. We have news. So
Okay.
Let's get the headline, please.
Lawmen under siege. That's the headline. Top cop assures safety a priority after attack. Police Association head urges colleagues to stay on red alert. And there is a picture of the crime scene as police gather evidence in which Steve Phillips, the driver of Deputy Prisoners Commissioner Sherwin Bruce, was injured yesterday. Cops uncover weapons haul. All of that is on the front page of the Express. On the back page, Seventh Heaven, Fatima's Degan's bagged hat-trick in 7-1 dismantling of QRC. Wow. 7-1 QRC, get boy? Man.
I see that yesterday, boy.
All the QRC old boys, hold on to that. The Trinidad and Tobago Guardian for today, the front page, 7 a.m. ambush. Prison officer hurt and shootout with gunmen, targeted outside deputy prisoner boss home. One suspect held while seeking treatment. So they held a suspect in that. Music producer buying food on the avenue killed. And cop seize arms cache. And on the back page of the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian, determined Da Silva up for regional Super 50 challenge. And the main picture is that of the Fatima QRC match. Of course, they got a 7-1 whipping. QRC got a 7-1 whipping. Newsday. Front page. Bodyguard wounded, teen injured in Barataria shootout, attack on deputy prisons chief. And there's a main picture of that, of the vehicle, even though in this picture they took off the number. In the other paper, they left it. Expert, people link mental illness to evil spirits. And okay. There's
you see what I'm there?
Paving the way forward.
Mental block.
I was just
a mental block.
I was reading the Bacchanal Bubble and Bad Behavior ad. It's just that it's in black and white, so it shocked me a little bit. But it's on the front page of the Newsday. And on the back page, San Juan hold on to top spot. Speyside Secondary thumped 4-0 in SSFL Premiership. And 1976 Phoenix FC crowned TTPFL Tier 2 champs. That's it for our 3 dailies this morning.
All right. Let me say hello to a few people. God Celia, good morning. The great Mrs. R, good morning to you. Guy Small, how art thou? CPT Singh, Kyle Cupid, Shuin Kerr, Winston Jones, Mike Black, good morning to you. All right. Let's results of our morning.
We're running behind time, Steve. We're running behind time.
No. Thank you, Wendell.
We want to say something, but he could.
If you all do not want to acknowledge, our listeners, it's up to you. We provide a service. They are saying hello, good morning. I am not rude. Our poll from yesterday. Do you agree that Venezuelans should be paying NIS? That was our poll yesterday. Results right after I tell you that you can party with Pavi and Burn Team Global as they present Vision 1, a charity cooler cruise. It's on this Saturday, October 14th, boarding at Lady Hills Avenue at 4 p.m., sailing at 5. Party the sounds of DJ Lovey, Dub Venda, and Juicy. Tickets are $250 and groups of 10 cost $2,000. For tickets, call Shamika at 346-8730 or Candice at 271-9655. Do you agree that Venezuelans should be paying NIS? 92%, 92 said yes. All right, this morning's poll, gentlemen.
My suggestion for the poll is, do you think the large cache, some say cache of weapons found in Santa Cruz by the TTPS came into the country through legal ports?
That's interesting. That's an interesting poll. Yeah.
I mean, I have no problem with that as the poll. If we could go with that.
Do you believe they'll find the person who imported that large cache of ammunition? That's another point. Well, we can do that one tomorrow. Please go ahead.
No, let's do that today. The persons responsible will be held.
Yeah. But to me, that's the bigger.
Yeah, not cheap.
That's the bigger issue here. Yeah. Because we know it coming. Is if the persons who brought it in will be held accountable. See, so you see why I joined. Right. Let me say condolences to Ian De Freitas. An ardent fan of the Power Breakfast Show. His mom passed away yesterday. So condolences. Ian De Freitas is an old QRC boy too, so he will be smarting from that walloping to yesterday. You know, but condolences, Ian. He's a huge fan of the Power Breakfast Show.
And he's not one from the middle-age cricket too?
Ian was in school with Gary Adge and Kenny Harry Nat and them.
We have 7 minutes for our poll. Do you think the persons responsible for importing the large cache of weapons found in Santa Cruz by the TDPS will be held accountable?
Yeah. So do you think the person responsible for importing the large cache of weapons found in Santa Cruz by the TTPS will be held accountable? That's our poll this morning. 222-TALK, 222-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099. People on the web or app or whatever, you can only vote via the comment section on our YouTube stream. So yes or no, do you think the persons responsible for importing the large cache of weapons found in Santa Cruz by the TTPS will be held accountable? That's our poll this morning. Start voting.
All right. Wayne B says no. Trinity in Boston says no. Wayne Joseph out in Simcoe, Ontario, Canada says no. Julia S. Batiste, no. Rena Boodoo Jennings, no. All right. Give us a call, 222-8255. North Americans toll free, 866-525-1099. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen. Sammy Grandy. My answer is no.
All right, Grandy, thank you. Do you think the person responsible for importing the large cache of weapons found in Santa Cruz by the TDPS will be held accountable? Yes or no? Okay.
That's our poll this morning.
Carol Guevara says no. George Ryan, morning, George Ryan, no. Trevor Broadbelt says no. Gloria Gray says no. Shuin Kerr, no. Carol Guevara says no. Kazim Mohammed says no. Winston Jones says yes. Oh, only yes so far from Winston Jones.
Winston, like Winston. You know something we don't know. A whole set of marijuana coming, going down the road in a truck. They corner the truck, seize the marijuana, nobody arrested. I'm tired of hearing these things. Yes?
Alcohol too.
I'm tired.
Alcohol as well. All right, 222-8255.
The guns go
free. North Americans,
866-525-1099. When we interview Stephen Williams, we interview Gary Griffith, we interview McDonald Jacobs. We haven't interviewed Miss Christopher yet. All the questions I asked them, all of them the same question. Why don't you all do a public destruction of these guns and ammunition when you all have them? Right? Because clearly these guns ain't used for no crime yet. They're brand new, at least as far as I see. Destroy them. Where are they disappearing after? Where are they going after? Eh? With this corrupt service and corrupt institutions we have. Where are they going? When you get all that arms and ammunition, where does it go? Destroy it publicly. Tired.
Kenny in Harlem says no to the poll. Mo Gaines, hell no. CPTs, okay, you didn't vote. Illegal honey also. Okay. All right.
Illegal honey, he said.
That's what he says.
You see,
Honey as in
illegal
honey,
honey also
honey.
being brought in.
Yeah. Do you think
You got
persons
some honey
responsible for the importing
Richard.
the large cache of weapons found in Santa Cruz by the TDPS will be held accountable? That's our poll. Yes or no? Vote now. You have 3 minutes to do so.
I say, I know you got honey lately.
Oh, yes, I did. I passed late at night and collected.
I almost got one myself, yes. That's this week.
Yep. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
My answer is no concerning the guns, and honey is illegal to import it's prohibited from coming into the country.
Oh, didn't know that. Okay, thank you. DJ Ray, no. Yeah, DJ Ray, I know what you mean.
Mike Black comment is back on the street. What does that mean? Oh, he was answering me. Back on the street. That is my fear, Mike Black. That is my fear, that a lot of these guns and ammunition that they seize, especially not going to, they ending up back on the street. That is my fear.
Lester Craigwell says no. And I tell you, it irks me every time there's a roadblock. You get a WhatsApp. Roadblock by so-and-so. Roadblock by so. It's there for a reason. Why are you forwarding it?
In a time of information, in a time of information overload, of course that's going to happen.
It will, but geez.
Yep.
Of course it's going to happen. Nobody is going to people are going to spread information because it's generally legal people who don't want to be inconvenienced by the roadblock. So of course people are going to share that information. So you have to work around the fact that people are going to share that information.
Yeah.
And the guys with those high-powered weapons that they have in the cars, you know what? It have a roadblock by Barratory around about line up past there.
But I assume your intelligence capabilities have to be a little bit more high-tech than that. Than you depending on a roadblock.
Yeah.
True. or somebody to message and say it have a roadblock. You would know.
To derail your whole intelligence operation. Then you're doing something wrong.
Alistair Hart says no to the poll. Thank you, Alistair. Do you think the persons responsible for importing the large cache of weapons found in Santa Cruz by the TDPS will be held accountable? Yes or no?
Yeah.
All right. You have less than a minute to vote before we get into our major news at 7. Evie will be in shortly. Yeah. You know, I mean, I was telling Paul, gentlemen, this morning, a quarry in Santa Cruz, fellas went with a set of guns, put everybody to lie down and tell them, don't come back here again. That happened overnight.
Why is it not in the news yet, Steve?
Because it happened overnight. I only heard about it as I came into it. But I'll tell you about it when I see you.
But it happened overnight, but it's not in the news?
Well, I don't know. It's up to the news folks. I knew one of the guys that they put to lie down. That's all I know. Leonard Naipaul says no. Good morning to the staff. All right. Evie is in. Let's get into our major news on this, the 12th day of October.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
Prisons officer was shot and wounded while waiting to transport Deputy Commissioner of Prisons said to be in stable condition. Police find a massive cache of ammunition, assault rifles, and firearm components in Santa Cruz. Next week, RIC will give an update on T&Tax rate review, and TSTT makes $118 million profit before tax. Workers and management to benefit from $6 million bonus. Details in a moment. This is news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Avril Sintel Bab. Good morning. Acting Commissioner of Prisons Deo Prasad Ramuja provided an update on prison officer Steve Phipps, who was shot and wounded while waiting to transport Deputy Commissioner of Prisons Sherwin Bruce in Barataria on Wednesday around 7 a.m. He said that the officer was in stable condition. Speaking with the media at the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex while visiting Phipps, Commissioner Ramuja said the service will remain strong. Commissioner Ramuja said Phipps was in a lot of pain but in a stable condition while Bruce was shaken up.
He's in a lot of pain, but he's stable. It is not life-threatening. He's stable, and we're glad for that. And my deputy is just shaken up, but he's unharmed. We have stepped up security. I think the answer is in rehabilitation, getting into the minds and the hearts of those inmates and wrongdoers, getting them to realize and change their wicked ways. That's why my appeal is for those in the underworld. Show that you are not supporting of this type of criminality. Draw a line. Help us arrest those persons. Bring them and place them before Port Spain Gate. Hand them over to the law enforcement officers.
Meanwhile, head of the Northeastern Division, Senior Superintendent Mervyn Edwards, speaking at the TTPS weekly news briefing, said certain leads are being pursued by the service into this incident.
We are actively pursuing certain leads in this matter and hope, more than hope, to effect an arrest within the shortest possible time.
Who's that? Superintendent Edwards also provided details on progress made in addressing crime on a sustained basis.
Operation Nisi has been ongoing in the Mova district, where I have 6 soldiers every day at different times patrolling 3 to 5 hotspot areas together with the task force, GB, IATF, and members of the CID. There's a calm in the Mova area at one time, and sometimes the statistics, we don't like to quote it, but for 42 consecutive days, there was no reports of serious crime.
As police searched for the men responsible for the shooting of 49-year-old prisons officer in Barataria yesterday morning, they found a massive cache of ammunition, assault rifles, and firearm components in Santa Cruz. The find was made by a team of officers from the Interagency Task Force, the Guard and Emergency Branch, and the Northeastern Division under the supervision of Senior Superintendent Edwards and Senior Superintendent Roger Alexander. At about 2 p.m., the officers made their way to a forested area off Saddle Road, where they came across the cache of weapons and ammunition. The finds included AR-15s, M16s, Uzis, shotguns, and .50 millimeter caliber rifles. At a press briefing at Police Administration Building in Port of Spain last evening, Commissioner of Police Erla Christopher described yesterday's haul as an historic one. The startling video and images of guns and ammunition, which was seized, were placed on 3 long tables at Police Administration Building. The Commissioner of Police noted that armor-piercing rounds were among the bullets that had been seized. There were AR-15s, M16s, mini Uzis, 50 caliber rifles, and 12-gauge shotguns. The Commissioner also informed that they had 7.62 ammunition, 5.56 ammunition, and most of all, 6.5 millimeter Creedmoor armor-piercing ammunition. She advised the criminal elements in this country that the TTPS will not be daunted and will not be intimidated by any threats. The attacks on their public officials will not be tolerated, and they will always fight. She said the seizure was based on their strategic plan, the Violent Crime Reduction Plan, where they are focusing on the retrieval of illegal firearms and ammunition. The public will know next week the Regulated Industries Commission's position on a rate review for the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission. Minister of Public Utilities Marvin Gonzalez informed the Parliament during the budget debate on Wednesday the RIC has completed its rate review exercise for TNTEC. Mr. Gonzalez said that he was informed of the situation by the RIC. However, the population will get more details on the development next week.
Madam Speaker, whilst on my way to Parliament, I was advised by the RIC that it has completed a rate review exercise for the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission, and that they will be speaking to the population 1 week from today with respect to its decision on a rate review for the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission. I see no more on that, Madam Speaker.
Media reports say the last rate review conducted for TNTech was in 2006, and every 5 years the RIC can conduct rate reviews for TNTech and WASA. Meanwhile, the telecommunication services of Trinidad and Tobago has made a profit before tax of $118 million in 1 year. TSTT was engaged in a restructuring exercise. The action was taken to address the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the evolving nature of the telecommunications industry. This move resulted in the utility saving $400 million. Some of the company's workers received a visa package. Minister Gonzalez commended TSTT for being able to accomplish such an achievement.
Engage in cost-cutting measures, saving the sector over $400 million, including a visa program to separate some of its staff. These stringent but necessary measures, Madam Speaker, resulted in TSTT for this financial year reporting a profit before tax of $118 million. A dramatic turnaround in just 1 year.
It was also revealed the board of TSTT has decided to pay its management and workers a bonus of $6 million, which will be shared equitably before the end of the year.
And as a result of that, Madam Speaker, I am advised that the board and the management of TSTT had taken a decision recently to pool together $6 million that will be shared equitably among its management and all of its staff before the end of this year in a bonus payment.
You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. Well, finally, let's find out what's happening in weather news for the period today till midnight. Trinidad and Tobago, generally hot and sunny with the likelihood of brief afternoon showers mainly near hilly areas. Tonight will be generally fair. Please remember that there is a hot spell yellow level alert that is presently in effect. Seas, or rather, look out for a forecast maximum temperature of 34 degrees Celsius at Piarco International Airport and 33 degrees Celsius at Crown Point in Tobago. Currently, the temperature is 25 degrees Celsius at Piarco, or rather 26 degrees Celsius at Piarco and 27 degrees Celsius at Crown Point in Tobago. Recapping your headlines to 7 o'clock, prison officer was shot and wounded while waiting to transport Deputy Commissioner of Prisons said to be in stable condition. Police find a massive cache of ammunition, assault rifles, and firearm components in Santa Cruz. Next week, RIC will give an update on TNTech's rate review, and TSTT makes $118 million in profits before tax, workers and management to benefit from $6 million bonus. I'm Afril Sintil Bab. That was news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. Look out for more news in detail at 12 noon today and an update coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All right. Thank you, Evie, for our major news. Of course, you can join her again at 8 o'clock for our news brief. Let's take a look at what's happening traffic-wise. San Fernando, you're lighter than usual. You got some traffic going through Coquier. Yep, that Naparima Miara Road from the highway towards Bypass. That is heavy this morning, as well as, what road is this again? Golaconda Connector Road. That is heavy. All right, take a look at what's happening on the Solo, heading northbound. You're going to get your traffic this morning. It's not too bad, actually. Rivulet Road is heavy from Charlieville. You're going to get your traffic. Passing through Enterprise, through Chinchin Road into Ibis Gardens, a bit heavy. Kelly Village, heading to Old Piarco, coming out of Madras Road. St. Helena and Chinchin Road, that is heavy. Ibis Gardens towards the highway. Eastern Main Road, yep, you got some volume, but that's about it. Not too sticky. It's moving. Lower Santa Cruz, going up Lady Young Road. Maraval and Diego Martin, yeah, you've got some traffic there. All right. Right, let me just check to see if I have any more votes. I do. Josie Richardson says no. Vaughn Drayton says no. Leonard Naipaul. Well, I got Leonard's vote already. So those two. That's the extra 2 votes, gentlemen. Let's get the results. As we wait for the results.
Poll this morning. Our poll this morning. Do you think the persons responsible for importing the large cache of weapons found in Santa Cruz by the TTPS will be held accountable? We had 22 people voting in the allotted time. Of the 22, 21 of you said no, you don't think anybody will be held responsible. One person says yes, they think they will be. So that's it for our poll in terms of the people voting in the allotted time. We can continue. You can continue to vote on this poll throughout the day through our program, and we'll give you the final results tomorrow morning, which will be Friday because the weekend begins tonight, people, at a second after midnight. So we will give you the final result. You can continue to vote on the poll, and we'll give you the final result tomorrow morning, which will be Friday. As we zoom towards the weekend, and of course, you have entertainment galore this weekend with Bacchanal Bubble and Bad Behavior at Cipriani College. Of course, the ad is on the front page of the Newsday, so you can see the number there to call in case. For the box office at Cipriani College opens from 12 noon to 6 p.m., and you can get tickets along the East-West corridor like K-Square, Fashion, and Eastgates and West Mall. Friends of Marabella by Piarco Plaza, and Tony's Florals at Val Park Shopping Plaza, Electronics in Arima, and I think they have almost sold out their tickets in Electronics in Arima, so you should rush to get your tickets there. Jabili Rawi in Tunapuna, Shafley Auto Services, and Rumbok, and in St. James. Of course, in San Fernando, you have Nikki Crosby, whose show is, getting superb reviews. Up to yesterday, a lady stopped me and was just talking to me about the show and how much she loved it. So Nikki Crosby is on in San Fernando this weekend. So people in South, you have the opportunity to see Nikki Crosby. You should not miss it. She's at Sapa this weekend, Saturday at 8:30 and Sunday at 6:30. Of course, the box office at Sapa opens from 12 noon to 6 p.m. And tickets are available at K-Squared Fashions in C3 Center and Gulf City, as well as Friends of Marabella by the Roundabout, and of course, Creme Fresh in Chaguanas at Brentwood Mall sells tickets for both shows. It's the one-stop shop that has tickets for both shows. So that's it in terms of the shows and entertainment on this weekend. But we just give the results for our poll. Do you think persons for importing the large cache of weapons found in Santa Cruz by the TTPS will be held accountable?
Based on all that I've heard in the last couple of years, I think a lot of emphasis needs to be placed on customs and excise in this country. And there's the elephant in the room that no administration seems to have the testicular fortitude to deal with effectively. They seem to be allowed to do what they want, and no cogent plan has been mounted to deal with the corrupt elements in customs and excise in this country. And not only in terms of importation, I've been careful here. The scheme that runs with corrupt officers also, I don't want to use the strong word as extorting, but it comes down to that, or facilitating easier processing through passage of money by some business people, and introducing inordinate delays to ramp up, is demurrage is the word, charges, and to kind of create an environment where if you want your stuff, you have to go around the mulberry bush and pay extra and stuff like that, has been allowed to continue for decades in this country. We need to clean up customs and excise in Trinidad and Tobago. And I haven't seen an administration in the last 30 years who seems to want to take on that challenge in this country.
You're right.
All kind of little ineffective steps here and there, and people dance around customs and excise. First of all, I think it should be moved from the Ministry of Finance to the Ministry of National Security because it's a border control.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the first thing
It's
it's
a
up.
border control.
And I understand the direct linkages with the Ministry of Finance because of the monies in taxes and excises that come out of customs, but that is not insurmountable in terms of an arrangement with the Ministry of Finance because it's all supposed to be digitized with Asecuda and all of that anyway. But somebody or bodies are benefiting from the way customs is allowed to operate in this country for decades. And nobody seems to want to have to really deal with it. The nonsense they study when they come before committees is astounding to me. So we're getting new scanners again. See if that helps. Okay, good luck. They had scanners for the last 15 years, they use them. They go and get what I think is about 12 handheld and big ones, and the last set became obsolete before they put in the orders for the new one. So it had none operating for a while. Somebody is benefiting from these
Definitely.
issues. Somebody wants to maintain the status quo in customs and excise in this country. And you know what's sad? We have a private-public partnership in Deco. That is a model as to how a port should run. But somehow it can't translate to Port of Spain. Somebody is benefiting from the malfeasance. That's all I have to say.
No argument from me here.
222 talk 222-825. But you said we had a guest still yesterday.
Yeah, he's coming on.
Mayor Ashina still here on.
Yeah, because my guest is late.
Mayor Ashina still here on.
I had to. We were behind time.
But yes, you are right, Paul. We have to make certain hard decisions concerning certain institutions in this country. If we are to make any debt, we can't be doing the same things for the last 15, 20, 30, 40 years and not achieving the results that we want. Where you have a situation where crime is now the number one concern of Trinidadians and Tobagonians across the country. I mean, a place like Arapita Avenue has now become a killing fields of sort because this is not the first murder that has occurred on the avenue.
For the year.
It's not. The one that would have occurred by Carlos Street and this a couple of days ago. It's not, and that's a major thoroughfare. And how, you know what I don't understand? Why is the avenue not constantly monitored by the TTPS? From the time, 4, 5 p.m., you're supposed to have a plan of what's going on in that avenue. Because you have so many food courts there now. And of course you have all of these restaurants and bars. It's that kind of district. From 5 p.m. in the afternoon, you're supposed to have a plan that takes you through to 3 a.m. in the morning.
I agree, fully agree. I know that it is a tourist center because anybody who has friends coming into the country say, well, let me take you on the avenue. You understand? Don't you want it to be maintained as a safe environment to enjoy for the nationals and visitors to enjoy the country?
Yeah. I know some people have migrated. Some people have migrated off the avenue. Some people don't go there anymore. Now they go to One Woodbrook Place because there's a stretch of street there. But they also had a shooting there at residents.
Yeah, shooting there.
Residents also had, murders there too. even though, of course, the stretch I'm talking about is where you have Buzz Bar and was that other place next to Buzz Bar? There are a few places along that stretch there that you can go and hang out to if you want. But a lot of people still go on the avenue because the avenue just has so many variety of places. You could people watch, you could do all sorts of things on the avenue. I remember Cipriani Boulevard at one point was becoming like a second avenue, but that seems to have still. I know Wendell was very frustrated about Cipriani because they had all sorts of development plans for Cipriani, and zero happened. Zero, because I was privy to Wendell discussing that on the Power Breakfast show and discussing with me privately in the tea room. Zero has happened on Cipriani Boulevard. But beyond all of that, the issue of crime and criminality in the country, we have to make certain decisions in terms of how we do stuff. And as I say, we can't solve the international drug trade. That is beyond our capabilities. But what we could do is say, A, we can make it very difficult for you in this space. Go elsewhere.
To import illegal guns and drugs into the country.
Yeah, we can say you could go elsewhere, but you can't do it here.
We could reduce it significantly. But the borders, including the legal ports of entry, are so porous that it is a prime target for illegal importation. Our guest is here. Good morning, Mr. Anisette.
Pleasant morning to you and your team. Blessings always.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on the Power Breakfast show.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure always.
All righty.
We're just talking about the illegal importation of guns into the country and the question of the legal ports of entry. And if you'd care to share your thoughts on if you think the legal ports of entry are porous.
You know what? I quite frankly, I don't share that view. Given the fact that is a legal port of entry, and there are several mechanisms that are in place in Trinidad and Tobago. But when you juxtapose, in my humble view, that the amount of other ports in Trinidad and Tobago, right, that foreigners can come and there's no patrols or no supervision, one has to ask yourself the question, what is the data that is driving what is being said about illegal port? But more importantly to me, if you have intelligence in terms of the legal port of entry and the illegal guns are coming through, which I don't agree with, well, then it should be able to resolve that issue readily. Because the first thing to find a solution is you must identify where the problem lies. And if we are aware that illegal ports of entry is a gateway for illegal guns and ammunitions, and given the ISPS codes and all the other security measures that you must put in place that was demanded by the Americans, I'm getting difficulty in understanding why it is that we are not seeing apprehensions of the guns and ammunitions. And may I add that we know that Medway down in Kufa, which is a private entry, a private warehouse, had to be closed down because of the amount of guns and ammunition that was found in Medway. But I didn't hear anyone talk about that. It's unfortunate, but I do not think that if we are serious, that we do not pay attention to the illegal ports where guns and ammunition, where there is no patrol, is being transacted on a regular basis. And Trinidad knows that.
You don't agree that there are gaps in the port of Port of Spain?
No, I am not saying that I don't agree, because nothing in this world could be 100% perfect. And you're going to get people who are going to use any mechanisms and procedures in order to bring in illegal guns, ammunition, foodstuffs, etc. But what I am saying, given the security measures that you have on the port and all the different measures, it is almost impossible for those things to go undetected.
Mr. Anisette, I toured the port of Port of Spain with the JSC National Security a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And the big scanner was down. The forklift man ran into the big scanner and rendered it inoperable. The CCTV cameras, if they had 70, only 10 were working. And those major gaps.
No, well, you see, again, those are administrative issues because those scanners was put in place. I know the one in Point Lisa that was given to us by the American. They worked for a specific time and they are done. You cannot get replacement parts, etc. But what I am saying that there is a daily patrol of security and it has been beefed up to address the issue of what we are talking about.
So on a port, the scanner is down, the CCTV cameras are inoperable, and in the present environment where technology is highly engaged to help monitor, you think beefing up of patrols is the way to go? Is going to close the gap?
In the absence of the technologies that you are talking about, where you are saying that is not running and up and running, the question I will ask is how long it is not running and why it is not running and why something hasn't been done to make it operational, given the fact of all the things that you are saying. Those are the kind of narratives that I will like to have. If the port is so critical and I put in cameras and the cameras are not operational, what is the reason that we didn't see about it to ensure that the cameras are up and running? How long the cameras are not running? And what is the reason that is not
right.
up and running?
That's one side of the discussion, but the other side is you started by saying you don't agree that the legal ports are the main conduit for illegal guns and drugs in the country. But with these major gaps in shortcomings in administrative execution of duties and making sure that the technology and the infrastructure is in place to monitor the contraband or seize the contraband coming into the country, I don't know how you could stay with your first position.
No, but here what I see, I do not agree that the two major ports, given what is required internationally
I didn't say
by the two major ports,
I didn't say the two major ports. I said the legal ports of entry. I didn't say two major ports alone.
All right. Well. What are the legal ports of entry? If there are legal ports of entry, one will expect that, keeping with international best practice, that the required mechanisms and the technologies that you are speaking of will be in place. Okay, and then if it is not in place, the question is why it is not in place. And then if you do not have all the technologies that you are talking about, the question that one has to ask, that this issue about illegal drugs, illegal goods, illegal ammunition didn't happen overnight. This has been going on for quite a while. We are just now experiencing, right, the escalation of what is happening. And the narrative that I will want to have is what is responsible for that? Who is responsible for ensuring that all the other legal, and I'll take your word, ports of entry is not beefed up and doesn't have the required international requirement to address the very same thing that you are addressing?
Let's move the conversation to
all right. Okay.
And
that would be the state. The answer simply would be the state.
State of Trinidad and Tobago doesn't seem to have the will to do it. Anyway, budget was read, and of course the budget contributions continue. Some unions had indicated that they would have preferred, I think, $25 or even $30 in some instances, to to the level of increase to the minimum wage. It has been increased by $3 to $20.50. What is your perspective on that level of increase?
Oh, well, the labor movement will have made our position clear, and we would have demonstrated in a tangible way that the minimum wage in law is the minimum wage that you could pay for a worker. The other question that we ask is if we want to drive an economy, given the type of economy that we have on minimum wages, we believe that living wages and decent wages is the way to go. And we say that against the backdrop that if I'm working in Trinidad and Tobago, and given the increase that we have witnessed over the last 4 years of goods and services, the reduction of workers' purchasing powers, the question of giving me $3 on a minimum wage, let me make that clear, in our humble analysis does not address the question of the inequality and the poverty levels that we are experiencing in Trinidad and Tobago, because the $3 didn't make provisions for the inflation and the ability of the worker to buy goods and services, which is critical in any economy. And on that basis, we are saying that we disagree with it. We have to look at a new, what we will want to call wage-led economy, as opposed to having minimum wage, where there is no control mechanisms, where we say allow the market force to dictate what is the price of goods and services. Unlike Jamaica, where the government would have taken a decision through the central bank that wages, goods and services must not increase no more than 7%. We do not have that in Trinidad and Tobago. And anyone who denies, and let me work it out, 2050, take out your calculator, by 173.3, you get $3,055.65. A house for rental in Trinidad and Tobago, I'm talking in a mile area, is $2,500. If you take away that from my monthly minimum wage salary, I am left with $1,055.65. The question that we are asking within the labor movement, do we expect a family of 3 or 4 to really survive on that salary? And I'm therefore, that is the conversation that we are having. The issue to us, with the greatest respect to everybody, is not that the minimum wage goes up. The issue to us is whether or not the wages will afford the family or the single parent, the single mother to survive given the galloping increases that we have been witnessing over the last 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, that was it really, when you calculate it, even at $30, it's still, which is what the trade union movement was articulating for, it was still pretty low in terms of the kind of salary that somebody monthly would have received against the kind of expenditure that you have in Trinidad and Tobago with regard to rentals, etc. But the state did at least $3. Is it that the trade union movement is going to be lobbying and advocating for an increase beyond that $3? Or
we will be using the very said economic arguments and socio-economic arguments that I am articulating now to demonstrate to the government, the business community, and the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Given what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago, given all the niceties where we see the inequalities in income and wealth, where one house have four cars, where we have no control over prices, where business person will go and buy something for $1 and come and send it for $20 in Trinidad, and there's no control mechanism. Is it fair, or is it right to ask someone to work at that level where there is no control mechanisms to address that issue? And I think we need to have that conversation as opposed to holding on the conversation of the minimum wage, which is the minimum money that you have to pay to a worker legally. And that is the conversation that we will want to have with the government and the private sector.
But I mean, minimum wage is a separate discussion to, of course, business, what should I call it? Business acumen, because business operates on supply and demand. So if a businessman can get something for $1 instead of for 20, they will. If there's somebody willing to pay $20 for it, it's supply and demand.
But yes and no, because I agree with Mr. Anisette's position, and I'm glad that he brought it up, that locking the conversation, and whenever I think about it, I'm glad that he's brought it up, into a conversation about a concept called minimum wage, as opposed to a concept about social justice and what people need to thrive and survive, is why I guess the response can be, well, it will impact our margins, we'll have to let go staff, we'll have to reduce hours, as opposed to the wider society considering what is social justice for all sectors. And I agree with Mr. Anisette's position on that, because when you look at the conversation about what should the minimum wage be, that's exactly what it will be, as opposed to creating an economic environment where everyone is treated as fairly as possible.
And that is a separate discussion. A businessman selling something for a price that he thinks the market can get. That's a separate discussion.
I agree with that. But what I'm saying is when the conversation is locked into a term called minimum wage, it puts the persons at the lower end of the demographic at an automatic disadvantage, because they're the ones who will be treated in a particular way to ensure the businessman's margins are at a particular level. And I'm not saying the businessman is supposed to demand his margins, but I'm saying the society as a whole should also be thinking in a wider conceptual way about what is fair to all sectors in society.
And you have articulated so correctly and succinctly. I must compliment you, because that is what is the conversation that we believe that you should have. And if I may, if you allow me, this issue about the minimum wage, this thought that if you go higher, that the economy is going to suffer, the business person will be forced to send workers home, and all those things that I would have heard from the Minister of Labour. That is unfortunate. And you may ask why Michael Anisette, who represents Natuk and the Labour movement, is saying that. Are we aware that the federal minimum wage in the United States is $7.25? Okay? Having said that, if we take your argument, it means that any business that goes above that, you're going to have economic issues and fallout that the minister would have spoken about. But are we aware that more than 22 states within the United States of America would have increased the minimum wage, and it has gone to $15 because they recognize that the minimum wage, the same conversation that we are having, cannot cut it. And it has a direct, unfortunate impact on growth and development. Why? If you do not have the wherewithal to purchase goods and services, we're going to witness what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago. Go in several of the malls now, you're going to see places shutting down, restaurants, etc. Okay? And that has come about because COVID-19 would exacerbated the poverty level in Trinidad and Tobago and globally, I must say, and it has made it impossible for stores to stay afloat given our economic reality. And I think as a society, we must have that kind of conversation, because people may not want to agree with it, but poverty has a nexus in terms of crime, and the research has demonstrated that it's not only poverty, and let me make that clear, education and several other things, but poverty is a major contributory to areas where you have crime.
Yeah. So is it that I know when because we are on a radio program, we get comments from our listeners with regard to even that issue of the minimum wage, and some were articulating the position that you were talking about, that if it goes up to 30, people will get less hours, people will get businesses will lay off, some of their employees, etc. Do you think the state should have just bitten the bullet, so to speak, and just said, look, we're increasing it to $30, and businesses will be able to survive? Because I know the state does listen to the various lobbies, including the trade union movement to some degree. To some degree. and the business community.
Qualify that statement.
And the business community in terms of where it should have settled. But I know on this program we had worked out the $30, and to me it didn't seem unreasonable. But of course, the business community may have objected it at that level. In terms of the jump.
But you see, again, I want to raise the point here, and let us take some examples. If you go to Switzerland, and I've been there, and you look at their economy, the minimum wages, and the standard of living, where crime is almost zero, right? If you go to Singapore, and I've been there on 2 occasions, and one look at what was the vision of the leadership there, and what they develop as an economy, and a country that do not have no resources whatsoever, and where they are in terms of the wealth ladder of the world. You see, the issue to me is about leadership, is about vision, is about what society that you want to build, right? And therefore, a major point in both Switzerland and Singapore was the question of the education of the youths and the children to develop the kinds of skill set that is required for the new world of IT, AI, and all the other things that is now part of our landscape. And if you have a society, and I want to be brutally frank this today, because I have experienced it, that you have people who are going to school 5 years, junior sec, senior second, and when they come out, they cannot read and they cannot write. What future are we building for Trinidad and Tobago if we have to be competitive, if we have to be productive, and if we have to be part of the new world of work? All those things are fundamental. So it's not only wages. I want to make that point. It's our educational system. It's the question of how we generate the productivity level to make us productive. So it's a suite of things that we have to discuss collectively and by social dialogue for us to change the narrative that is being perpetrated in Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago have a lot of resources. And why can't we, as a country, really develop Trinidad? At one time, under the deceased, they wanted to make here the financial capital of the Caribbean. At one time, Siemens Union and the National Trade Union Center was arguing for more than 15 years that we can make here a transshipment hub, 1 for containers and 2 for ship repair. We could look at the maritime industry, given where we are located, and develop that in terms of diversification as a new mechanism for bringing in foreign exchange, 1, and building sustainable jobs and good wages. All right, and those are some of the
I hear you. I hear
conversations.
you. I hear you on the education system, but I don't know that there is that kind of will coming from the political class. And I'm not talking specifically about the PNM. I'm talking about the political class generically. I don't know if there is that will to really be transformational in terms of our educational system in the kind of way that some of those countries constantly transform and tweak their education system. I've had conversations with Tim Gopi Singh when he was the Minister of Education, where at that point, when Tim Gopi Singh was the Minister of Education, the English education minister was touring Asia as to why they were doing so well in mathematics.
Right. Yeah.
And why they were, what were they doing that was surpassing the English in terms of tweaking their system. The issue of coding back then was being introduced in terms of the whole IT infrastructure at primary school. We have not even done that at the primary school level yet in any consistent way. And I've had that conversation with the Minister of Education then, Tim Gopi Singh, and Anthony Garcia, I think, who came after. I have not had it with Gadsby Dolly, but the system remains the same in a lot of ways, and there seems to be no will or urgency in how the Ministry of Education transforms our curriculum to suit the changing and evolving dynamics of the present 2023 century. It just doesn't seem to exist. And so we continue to do the same things.
Yeah. Well, if you do the same thing over and over, as they say, and expect different results, well, then you know what they say about that. And I think you are hitting the nail on the head. And you see why people may say we in the labor movement, we only like wage increase. No. No, it is more about that. And you making up, I mean, I went to Singapore on 2 occasions. I went to India, I was in Germany, I was in Switzerland about 5 occasions. And just like you, all right, as you are saying, I would have paid particular attention, all right, to what was happening. And I'm raising the same question. Why can't we do that transformational change in terms of our educational system that will put us at another level? Because those countries that I make reference to, and you know it is happening in Botswana now, in Africa too, all right? Those countries. And I mean, people might say we talking politics, but it's about leadership. It's about a vision. It's about what we really want for Trinidad and Tobago. Is it that a few people must benefit and the rest of us, right, we must go under the table, right, to get crumbs rather than sitting at the table?
Philosophically, you've hit the nail on the head. And this is just my opinion. I think there is a tacit acceptance that, well, societies are stratified by economic status, etc., and there are some who will always be at the lower end, and some who are supposed to be almost by birthright at the upper end, and the dwindling middle class is evidence of that. And there was a point in our country where we had a larger middle class, where there was almost a philosophical direction where a larger proportion, there'll always be the people who are on the lower economic rung, and always people who are on the upper economic rung. But our middle class was much larger, and the larger middle class drives the economy better. But it seems that there is some sort of philosophical shift, and it goes back to the minimum wage conversation, that, well, some will have more, and some are supposed to have less to facilitate larger margins of some who have more. And people wouldn't like to hear that, but it goes back to the education system too, because we boast about, well, 50% passed the SCA. And that tells me a lot. If we're boasting about 50% passing SCA, how can we get to coding and higher order curriculum?
You see, and you see, that is the question. So when we talk about guns, when we talk about gang warfare, there's a nexus between what we are talking and the spin-off and fall-off of what we are not doing. And the question is, to me, and I'm glad we are having this conversation. I mean, happy and enthused about it. Is that we now have to push, right, as leaders in our own way in the society. You all are educators too, because you are running a radio station, and I believe that the radio station, they are educators. Okay, so the question is how
Not all.
like-minded people get together in order to force those changes that is so necessary if we love Trinidad and Tobago. I was in a conversation yesterday and I told them I cannot leave Trinidad and Tobago. I hear some business people saying, well, I go in Miami and live. I cannot do that. My children cannot do that. My grandchildren cannot do that. And I believe that we have a responsibility to engage in those kinds of conversation. And you make a fundamental point, we had a thriving middle class, and it has been disseminated because when those public servants, who most of them were the middle class at that point in time, all right, and I don't want to get into the historical factors for that. When you don't give them wage increases from 13 years, all right, and the average public servant is between $7,000 to $8,000 a month, and some is $5,000. That is a fact.
Well,
And
more
you
than that,
offer them.
added to that, this country has invested billions of dollars in GATE. And one would imagine that because we have so many more people trained at a tertiary level, that would have driven a wider support of a middle class that could have different kinds of jobs, be paid what is described as decent wages for the services presented, and have a stronger, thriving middle class driven economy. But despite people being more people being educated at tertiary level, undergrad and postgrad, we're seeing almost the opposite, with the middle class shrinking, which is counterintuitive.
No, but what is responsible for that? It comes back to the educational system and where the educational system direction is. Are we into AI? Are we into cyber security? Are we into IT? Are we into the entrepreneurial development skill that is required? Are we into the technical and vocational skills? Or is it that, yes, we get a BA in social science? You know many people that leave university with a Bachelor of Science degree in social science or HR. We have more HR managers or people who qualify in that field than is required. We have more lawyers, right, in that field that is required in Trinidad and Tobago. And if you go and you get a hybrid car, and I have experienced that based on what people who have hybrid cars tell me, the technicians there, hello, there is no training regime to develop that level of skill set that will require for the transformation of the hybrid cars and all the other things. So it's one thing to tell me, yes, I'm going and get a degree, but what is the degree fit for purpose, right? And then that is the conversation that we have to have. And in China, I was there too. That is what they did. And their plan was for a 30-year horizon, looking at what will be required. And they send the students to several countries to learn the skill sets. And they come back now in China and look at where China is today in terms of the economic ladder. And one must remember, about 50 years ago, China was a poor country.
Yeah, but I mean, education system to suit your economic needs has to derive from a plan of where you want to go and what our plan is, and where do you see the size of your economy fitting in the global context. And I don't know that we've had those kind of conversations. What is brand Trinidad and Tobago? What is that brand? And what do you want that brand to be 10 years from now? And those are the kind of conversations that we have to have that will then influence the decisions made at those levels. But I don't think we're thinking in that broader context of how competitive we are and what is that brand that we are trying to sell to the world. What
part of that, Richard and Michael, is because while China thinks in 100-year cycles, we only think in 5-year political cycles.
Yeah. That's part of the problem.
That's part of the problem. There's no continuity.
Part of the problem is, Paul, too, is that a lot of our politicians have the attitude of that good enough for them.
Mm-hmm. All right. That's why I said earlier, by a philosophical underpinning that, well, there will be poor people and there will be rich people, and we have to take that. Not everyone should strive for the same level of economic in the country, because you don't deserve that.
Yes, the luxury liner has to rise for the P-Rocks to get something.
But before the conversation's coming close, and I wanted to get your view on two things. One, of course, is the 11th actuarial cycle of NIB, which is suggesting an increase from the 13% roughly to 1% for NIB contributions, and or the raising of the minimum wage to non-minimum wage, the retirement age to 65, or both, doing one or both. And that's one. What's your view on that? And does the trade union movement, the Minister of Public Utilities would have indicated that the regulated industries team would have articulated that the electricity rate decision would be given in a week. Of course, there was a lot of talk across the country that it seemed as if they came not for consultation, but ready to indicate what they're going to do. Ready for a consultation. That was generally the narrative that you heard when the regulatory industries division was going around. People felt that. They felt that you will come in with a preconceived decision, and why are you consulting us? But of course, people did weigh in, businesses and people. What is the trade unions movement, at least as you see it, with regard to that retirement age moving up to 65, one, and two, if electricity rates are increased, it's going to increase further hardship on the country in terms of bills, which of course is where we started the conversation with regard to minimum wage. Does the trade union movement have a position on these things?
All right, let me just respond to. Are we talking about NIB per se? Or are we talking about pension plans where I make a contribution in my workplace? For example, in the port, we have a pension plan. Is Trinidad and Tobago aware of the fact that the retirement age for daily rated workers are 65 years? That's a fact. Secondly, the retirement age for 60 was monthly paid worker, which was something that was handed over from the colonial past. So we have to make those distinctions. There are legal negotiated registered pension plans that speaks to the retirement age of 60. So is the government talking about the NIB retirement as opposed to the private pension plans where private companies and unions would have negotiated for and on behalf of their members? So that the issue of the retirement of 65 is applicable, as I speak to you, to all daily rated workers, right? Having said that, the other point that I want to raise, the Honorable Minister of Finance would have made a statement, and I don't think anybody took it on seriously. He was talking about the percentum of workers who are not paying NIB, and is over 200 and something thousand. That is what he said. All right, that is one. So we have over 200,000 rather workers in the system, as he articulated, that is not paying NIB. And that tells me we are speaking about the informal economy, which is a growing economy and which is parallel with the normal economy. So if that is a fact, how do we now speaks to the inability of NIB to make the commitments? That is one. Two, as you all will be aware, NIB does what I will want to call actuarial evaluations over a period of time, and they track what is happening, and they will tell you what is required over a period of time. And I'm aware that for political purposes, some increases was given through the NIB without the actuarial evaluation saying, well, this would make financial sense in the long term. But more importantly, the percentage of money that is invested through the NIB funds cannot meet the requirements of a new, modern, growing one economy, and an economy where we have a lot of people aging. All right? And
living longer.
Yeah, and I'm longer. And then the next point that I want to make, how do you tell me that if I want to retire early, that you will have to pay a penalty? All right, because you want to take the age to 65. They say, well, it has some countries have it at 70 years, you know, and a lot of talk. And you see, those are the things that always have me baffled, because we just hear a statement that is made, and there's no consultation, there's no discussions, there is no what I want to call, you know the watchword, social dialogue with the social partners for us to develop.
But the Minister of Finance did indicate that he had consulted with many unions concerning
which union he consulted with?
Well, he said that.
All right, I will tell you, there's one union that he consulted with, NUJFW. I challenge him to say if he consulted with Human Union, if he consulted with OWTU, if he consulted with PS, and I could go on with all the unions. We remember we have 86 registered unions in Trinidad and Tobago. But having said that, the point that I want to make, all right, is if you don't have that kind of conversation and you just come up one then say, I am going to do that, and it appears as a level of arrogance, because do as I say, without any consultation, we're going to always have these problems.
To be fair, I think Minister Imber is well aware that he is just putting a statement out there that will have to be distilled widely in the public. And in any case, to my knowledge, a change in the retirement age may require a 3/5 majority in the parliament, which if various parties don't come together in some sort of consensus, it's not going to happen just as easily. Isn't as easily as Minister Imber is saying we're raising it to 65 in my understanding. It's not as easy as the government taking a position like that without getting support in various arms of the parliament.
All right, but could you guide me, because I raised two fundamentals. One is whether we are talking about private pension plans where workers contribute and the employer and the retirement age is 60, or are we talking specifically to the NIB pension plan? And I think that is where the conversation has to be. And more importantly,
the impression I get, Mr. Anisette, is that the issue is one of contributions, so that they want more of the working population to continue to work until age 65, so they continue to make contributions to the NIB.
No, but we have the mass majority of workers who are daily rated workers are working until 65 already.
But you still have a huge chunk that retired 60.
Yeah, but all right, but what is the percentage of the huge chunk in terms of a ratio basis to the over 200,000 workers who are not making a contribution? Am I going to pay a price for an administrative fault why it is that we cannot get those people within the social net, all right, to make those payments. Those are the conversations that we have to ask. And I understand some of the things that they are saying, because you can go to a private doctor, all right, and you pay him. He ain't paying no NIS, you know. He ain't paying nothing, not even tax.
Yeah. But I know
right.
we have to end the conversation. I know we have to end the conversation at this point, Ms. Anisette. But does the trade union have a position if the electricity rates go up, which it seems like?
No, but we have said in our document, I don't know if you had it, that the question of raising electricity now and property tax will be too onerous on the ordinary working man in Trinidad and Tobago, given where we are, and more importantly to the public servants, the port workers, the NMB workers who haven't gotten the wage increases yet, and who are still living on 2012 and 2013 salaries, right? Any increase at this time will be patently unfair and a prescription for social fallout.
All right, but that's why we're going to have to leave the conversation this morning, because time has creeped up upon us. It's after 8, and we have news at 8 o'clock, which we're already late for. So thank you, Mr. Anisette, for speaking with us this morning.
The pleasure is always mine. Yeah, the pleasure is always
mine.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so Trinidad and Tobago, you know, theater is on this weekend. Back in that bubble on Bad Behavior at Cipriani College Saturday and Sunday. And of course, Nikki Crosby, 50ish and Hot AF at Sapa. You can, of course, both theaters, Sapa and Cipriani College, your box office opens from 12 noon to 6 p.m. at both theaters. So you can get tickets there, as well as